No, it's never going to be a grand fracturing of the party. They're never going to fucking fracture. Okay. They have to hold on to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a connective tissue. Okay. Without Donald Trump, they are absolutely cooked. They have to circle around the dear leader and offer him unlimited praise because he is the glue that holds the base together. Anyway.
Let's take a look at another president, though. President Donald John Trump. Look at this. I got 4 numbers across for you on this screen here. They are...
Holy Toledo, ladies and gentlemen.
Bruh.
Donald Trump's approval ratings are in the dumpster. It's a dumpster fire. I'm Harry Emden.
Are all second-term lows for the given pollster. What are we talking about? AP Newark, 26 points below water. NBC, 22 points below water. Yahoo YouGov, 20 points below water. Quinnipiac, 19 points below water. So we're ranging from negative 19 points all the way to negative 26 points. You know, Kate, there's this question that folks keep asking, you know, where is the floor for Donald Trump? And I'm not sure there is a floor, because if there is one, Donald Trump, at least in term number 2, has just fallen through it to another low level.
How does this compare with this first term, and how does this compare with Joe Biden?
Okay, so we look at these numbers right here. One of the things that Donald Trump had been arguing, his proponents have been arguing, oh, you know what, he's doing better than he was doing in term number 1. No longer is that the case. What are we talking about here? Okay, net approval rating at this point in the term. Look at this. 22 points below water on average when you average all the polls.
Please stop, bro. Jesus Christ, shut up. Gallup stopped measuring the COVID strat. I know. That is pretty fantastic, by the way. Gallup, after 88 years, has decided to no longer poll.
I see.
After 88 years, Gallup has decided to no longer poll the presidential approval ratings, which is crazy. Okay. And there's a reason for that, because, you know, dear leader, we are basically taking on all of the excesses of our ideological enemies. Straight up. People that we have, you know, things that countries that we have long considered to be enemies of the United States of America, and some of their excesses we have now adopted. Things that we suspect them of doing, we have started doing here in the United States of America. Straight up. Okay? Yes, it is an indication that the empire is collapsing. Peter Baker of the New York Times says, this is a huge loss for journalists and others who follow politics. Gallup has been the top source for presidential approval since FDR, and particularly valuable because of that historical context with apples to apples numbers that allow us to make comparisons and see patterns. After 88 years, Gallup has decided to hit the COVID strat. We will no longer calculate the presidential approval. We will no longer track the presidential approval, because if you don't track it, then it's fine. Everything is fine, actually, and the situation is better. It's the COVID strat. The only reason why the numbers are so high is because we're tracking them. We should stop tracking the COVID numbers, and then COVID will go away. Bye-bye.
Pollsters from the last slide. That is actually lower. That is lower than he was at this point in term number 1, when he was 17 points below water. So he's doing 5 points worse, and he's doing way worse than Joe Biden was doing at this point in his term number 1, when he was 13 points below water. So the bottom line is this: Donald Trump is setting new records for himself in term number 2, setting new records for himself compared to where he was at this point in term number 1, and he's doing worse than Joe Biden, which is, of course, the comparison that Donald Trump does not want to be, because we all know what happened to Joe Biden. His party lost the House in term number 1, that midterm elections, and of course Joe Biden was not reelected to another term. At this point, the numbers are no bueno for the President of the United States.
What's driving this that you're seeing right now?
Okay, Kate. You know what? This is the segment. We have done it over and over and over again because he keeps setting new lows for himself. What are we talking about? Well, we're talking about independence. We're talking about independence. When you lose the center of the electorate, you lose the American people. Trump's net approval rating among independents, you know, at this point, you go back term number 1, he was 17 points below water. Now, according to Quinnipiac, he is 27 points below water. I don't understand how this works out well for the President of the United States. When you are 27 points below water, underwater, with the center of the electorate, with independents, you lose, your party loses. You know, I've made the comparisons before, you know, oh, he's more underwater than Greg Louganis. I've made the comparisons with all those different divers. And the bottom line is this, you can continue to make those, but over time, when you keep making those same comparisons, they run a little bit old. But at this point, I don't really know who to even compare Donald Trump to because he's just so low, and he's so low with the center of the electorate.
261 days to go. Yes, the midterms may seem far off, but they are starting to dominate the dynamics here in Washington and are fresh on President Trump's mind. As the GOP now confronts a daunting political environment, Trump is taking his pitch to the nation's battlegrounds, even before U.S. troops in North Carolina, where he urged them to vote Republican.
Biden, who is the worst president in the history of our country. 0 illegal aliens have been admitted into the United States, and that's done by the radical left. Michael, will you come here for a second, please? He's running for the Senate, and if he gets in, you're going to be taken care of. If he doesn't get in, we're going to be stripping the military like they always do, the Democrats. When I heard they were taking the name Fort Bragg off, I said, no, they're kidding.
Again, always immaterial nonsense, always aesthetics nonsense. How much longer will this nonsense work on the unwashed reactionary masses? Because for the time being, when he first came into office, everyone was like, hell yeah, we're winning. It's awesome. It's like we're winning together, right? Anti-woke is on top. Woke is dead. Let's go and, blame transgender people. Let's go ban transgenders from playing sports at the NCAA. But like, he got a sequence of those executive orders in action, and nothing actually changed for the better. So there's only so much you can do in terms of culture war issues, in terms of advancing the culture war agenda, until people realize, wait a minute, my pocketbook is still hurting. It's not helping. Like, groceries are still expensive. The electricity bill has skyrocketed. What the fuck are we doing this for? I'm not winning in this process. Oh, you named the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America? I don't give a fuck, dude. And even in the absence of the Democratic Party presenting said alternative loudly and proudly, engaging in politics from the perspective of class and saying, we're going to do class first politics, we're going to do class first politics. In the absence of the Democrats doing that, people still realize that this shit is not working. Okay? That's it. There's a reason why he has to turn around and say, affordability is a hoax. It's a hoax. It's a Democrat hoax. Why does he have to do that? He has to do that because affordability is a real issue, okay? It was a shot across the bow when Zoran Mamdani won on the affordability agenda. Do you know what I mean?
They did. They took the name off. We got it back very quickly, but they took it off. And if we don't win the midterms, they'll take it off again. It's another reason you have to vote for us, because they'll change it back to whatever it might be.
And this weekend, Trump also renewed his calls to place new restrictions on voting, as he started to see some fraying within his coalition, all while possible 2028 contenders, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, flocked to Europe this weekend, where they're getting some attention. Let's break this all down with my excellent panel: Tia Mitchell from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, CNN's Phil Mattingly, and Julie Davis from the New York Times. Good morning to you all. So look, Trump is, of course, as he does, demand total unity as we head into this very daunting stretch for the GOP. His party wants him to focus on issue number one, the economy. And we've seen time and time again Trump trip on his own message or create distractions and do things that are causing significant pushback within the ranks. Just this past week, we saw the Justice Department try and fail to indict 6 House Democrats. A lot of Republicans uncomfortable with that. How he's handled these ICE surges, particularly in Minneapolis in recent weeks, has caused pushback among Republicans, nervous about going too far. Of course, that racist video of the Obamas that he later was forced to delete, though did not admit a mistake. Phil, how is this playing as we head into the midterms with his party?
Not great. I think, and Monty, honestly, like I watch you work the halls every single week, and it's always a really good barometer of when do we hit self-preservation mode for members of Congress? And I think that as powerful as Trump's grip on the party has been, and I think we should all be very careful to pronounce some grand break or diminishment of his authority over the Republican Party and over his members, which has been so kind of ironclad over the course of the last 13 months. But the moment where Republican lawmakers, particularly frontline Republican lawmakers, start looking around and say, if I need to actually win in November, I need to start creating some distance. Not dramatic scale of distance that we've seen perhaps in past administrations, but I think what we've seen over the course of the last couple of weeks, but in particular this week as well, is some of those members saying there are opportunities for me to break. The repercussions of that from Trump's Truth Social posts are not in the kind of cost-benefit analysis, bad enough for me to not want to risk this, and therefore I'm going to move forward. Is it a grand kind of fracturing of the party?
The problem is there's nothing that they can do in the absence of a totally unique and different vision that looks at this system of unlimited exploitation that is fucking over the working class and say, we have to find something entirely different to do here. We have to build a robust industrial base. We have to bring back manufacturing into the country, which Donald Trump is saying he wants to do, but he's not actually following through on because he wasn't elected into power to do that. He was elected into power to defend the pedophilic billionaire cabal. In the absence of socialism or an alternative vision or even moving into the direction of social democracy, which is not going to do because it undermines the interests of capital, and no Republicans are ever going to do that. No Democrat is really ever going to do that either. They're out of options. He just has to keep hitting the same button over and over again. He has to keep hitting the same culture war buttons over and over again. Oh, this, that, Jeffrey Epstein. We're going to invade a city. We're going to invade a fucking city with ICE. We're just going to do more deportations. That's it. That's all we got. We don't have anything else. All it peters out into is this. That was so nasty that it literally, I felt like I could smell it. Like, that's one of those things I'm never going to hit that button ever again. Brother, yeah, that was unacceptable, and I apologize for that one.
Absolutely not.
And typically in a normal, what's normal anymore, but like in a previous administration, the president would be like, okay, break with me.
Every other president says, like, I get it. Like, this is what you have to do. Trump is not that president, and how that dynamic plays out in the coming weeks, we're going to see more of this, is going to be really, really telling.
Yeah. Right, and I think that's why it's been as limited as it's been, right? Yes. We saw that tariff vote last week. You had 6 Republicans. That's not anywhere close to the universe of Republicans that if they wanted to, protect their political flank and guarantee success in their races, would have wanted to vote yes on that to cancel the Canada tariffs.
There'd probably be a lot more.
There are a couple in there who are retiring. Yeah. There's one in there who's redistricted into a bad position anyway. So this is not as dramatic of a shift as we normally see at this point in the cycle, where you have a party that realizes they need to get some distance from the sitting president. But part of that dynamic is because this particular president will not brook any kind of break whatsoever, even if he knows, he probably doesn't think about this, but that it's for his own political good, the good of his own people in Congress and keeping the majority.
And we're starting to see his messaging too, focusing, as he does, about voting, voter ID, which of course, voter ID is an issue that unites Republicans generally. There's no question about it. But Trump is going much further than most Republicans are, particularly when he talks about what he mentioned on Truth Social just over the weekend. He said there will be voter ID.
Yeah, this is the other side of the story where he knows that his popularity is waning and they have to maintain the appearances that they still have this mandate. And obviously, if the midterms are coming around and he's going to fucking destroy this movement, and Democrats, regardless of how shittily they perform, are still probably going to make significant gains. And I do think that it's not as my fear still right now in the midterms is that Democrats are going to underperform if they keep up this if they keep up this like bullshit, wishy-washy, business as usual approach hoping to eat at the gains that they make off of like the overall resentment the population feels towards the Republicans in power, they're not going to do as well as people think they are, okay? But they probably still will make modest gains, and Trump is fearful of that because it undermines the agenda. It undermines the agenda because Donald Trump has to maintain this idea that he is super popular. Everybody loves him. Things like the Gallup poll no longer, after 88 years, no longer covering the presidential approval ratings is helpful for Trump's ambitions here. And then, of course, the other side of this is to go in and focus on voter ID, SAVE Act, try to maliciously weaponize that against like Democrats in general, purge them from the voter rolls, offer or make it more difficult for them to get like true ID, real ID, or a passport or whatever, and institute some sort of like poll tax, basically. And then also maybe even put ICE at polling stations, right? With the claims that, we got to stop undocumented migrants from going in and voting or whatever, even though these claims are completely unsubstantiated, but unfortunately not pushed back against by Democrats as aggressively as they should be. All of this serves a very important purpose: voter disenfranchisement and electioneering of this sort, trying to make it more difficult, trying to literally put the fear of God in people that want to go out and vote and engage in this civic duty. All of this is to stop people from going out and voting against the administration. And this, paired up with the fact that the Democrats are not giving them something to vote for, even in the fucking midterms, is going to cause issues in the Democratic Party's performance of the midterms. That's why I'm saying they're probably going to have, if they don't change their attitude from this point on until the midterms, you will see something very different than the expectation.
For the midterm elections, whether approved by Congress or not. Also, the people of our country are insisting.
By the way, Kirsten Elm openly said that too. When it gets to election day, we've been proactive to make sure that we have the right people voting, electing the right leaders to lead this country.
Is another one of those critical infrastructure responsibilities that I have as well. And I would say that many people believe that it may be one of the most important things that we need to make sure we trust is reliable, and that when it gets to election day that we've been proactive to make sure that we have the right people voting, electing the right leaders to lead this country through the days that we have, knowing that people can trust it. And elections is another one of those critical infrastructure responsibilities that I have as well. And I would say that many people believe that.
Why is the Department of Homeland, the DHS secretary, worried about the right people voting and what the infrastructure is going to look like around voting? This type of shit is treasonous. Okay? Straight up. Straight up. They're saying it. This is why I say the controlled opposition party, the Democratic Party, is sleepwalking into fascism, okay? It's happening in real time. It's literally a one-to-one. Like, what if you have any understanding of history, the capitulation by liberals and the titans of industry towards the growing Nazi movement in the early days of fascism in Nazi Germany, early days of fascism developing in Italy, you recognize that powerful forces in the country that were servants of capital on the supposedly opposing side engaged in unprecedented appeasement, not just Neville Chamberlain or whatever. I'm talking like internally within the domestic governance of Germany at the time. They did this exact same thing.
Citizenship and no mail-in ballots, okay? And then he goes on to say, if I can't get this through Congress, there are legal reasons why this scam is not permitted. I will be presenting them shortly in the form of an executive order. What is he talking about? And states run elections, not the federal government. And here he is again saying that we will just do this, regardless if Congress approves this.
States run elections. the Constitution outlines some of this stuff. So what he's talking about, you can't do by executive order, and you can't do without violating the Constitution. You know, it's the way our government was set up. But I don't think Donald Trump cares about that. I also just think it's so interesting because I'm old enough to remember when Republicans, state by state, started relaxing the mail-in ballot rules to allow more people to vote by mail.
I mean, a lot of Republicans want that to happen.
They want that
because
to happen.
They wouldn't have the majority if vote by mail did not exist.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And they know that the rollbacks of voting by mail could really hurt them in the long run because a lot of rural voters, a lot of voters in far-flung areas like that convenience of voting by mail. So it's just like, it's problematic from a legal standpoint. It's problematic from just a purely political standpoint that he's pushing for things that a lot of Republicans don't agree with. Especially, it's one thing to say voter ID at the polls, and that's what a lot of Republican members of Congress are focusing on. But that is not all that what President Trump is asking for. He's talking about proof of citizenship, which again goes back to the fact that, yes, there are some states that have different rules because we have determined that, well, the Constitution outlines that states run their.
Dude, people say we need voter ID bad. You have to ask if the elections in the United States of America are fair and free. At least a lot more fair and free than the way Republicans presented. You got to ask why they want to do voter ID. As a principle, I don't care about voter ID one way or another. Like, I would be fine with, showing a piece of paper that says you're an American citizen when you're voting if that piece of paper or that identification was readily available and accessible, okay? But in the absence of a real necessity for this, the only reason why they're doing that is because they want to engage in voter disenfranchisement, okay? That's it. If you can't comprehend why they're doing this, I don't know what to tell you.